Welcome to Music and Medicine. Welcome to Music and Medicine. Welcome to Music and Medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Moshe Lewis. Welcome to Music and Medicine. I'm really delighted to join this young man here, Rashad Holiday. You probably know him best from Something for the People, but you may not realize how deeply involved he's been in music production and composition. You can find him having composed for simple shows like the Emmy Awards, NAACP Image Awards, not to mention a whole bunch of TV shows and movies. Welcome, young man.
Glad to be here.
Sure. So I don't think a lot of us really appreciated that big transition, but I want to roll back a little bit and talk about how you got involved with Something for the People, because obviously just from the name and from jump, you were trying to give people a little something to remember you by.
Trying to give them something for the people.
Yeah, exactly.
I met two guys from Something for the People, Sauce and Fuzzy.
Mm-hmm.
They're from Oakland and I'm from LA, and a mutual friend introduced us.
Ah, okay.
And he said that I think you guys work real well together, and he was right.
Right. And then I wanted to talk about, because it may have been a conscious decision or not, but the idea of putting the girls up front. This is kind of like a little bit even before SWV and some of those kind of groups. How did that decision go down?
Well, we were working with them, and they were featured on that song. So the core group was us three guys.
Right.
And then so it was Something for the People featuring Trina and Tamara.
Right.
On My Love Is the Sh. So that's how that came about.
Right.
And we still work with them to this day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that song and how that came, because obviously it was a little bit different than the style you all had and things like that, and definitely signature now. It's a classic.
Yeah. Fuzzy, the lead singer of the group, had an idea, and he brought the idea to us. He said, I had this idea about basically competition, about bragging about how good your love is, and the girl is responding about how good her love is. And he had a concept of how he wanted the track to go and the beat to go, and we put it together, and the rest is history.
Sure. Now, when did this whole composition bug and writing as much music as you've done in the last few decades, when did that all get started?
Probably about 03,
Okay.
20 years ago now. I had a friend of mine was doing music, licensing music for television, and he approached me. He said, hey, do you have any tracks or songs that you're not using that I can use on television shows? And I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, no problem. So I shot him over a few things, and I looked at my BMI statement. I was like, this could be something right here. So that was the door opening up to the composition world.
Sure, and clarify that for people, because certainly a lot of people may not know the industry vernacular.
Composing music for television shows. It didn't start off like that. I was really just doing tracks like I would normally do. And the deeper I dove into it, it became specific about doing specific music for scenes. So it might not be a full composition like a song, but it could be just a piano part or string lines.
Sure. And then I still want to get into this a little bit, because I think one of the biggest challenges is realizing that there are so many places in front of the camera, behind the camera, and how you made that transition and maybe didn't let ego get in the way, but still wanted to stay very involved in the industry. And now some people might argue are even more involved in the industry than you might have been had it just been the group and thinking it would last forever.
Yeah, being in the group, I mean, that's how everybody knows you. That's everybody knows your name and your face, and you can have 5 minutes of fame.
Right. Doing
it, and it's fun. It established me in music, and what nobody really talks about when you get into music is that what are you going to be doing 10 years later? And music changes, and if you think about decades of music, like the 70s had a sound, the 80s had a sound, the 90s have a sound, and you don't really think about that when you're getting in it. You're just kind of in it in the moment.
Sure.
And when you start, once you've been in for 10 years, and the sound starts to change, you have to be able to adapt to the change in order to stay relevant with what's going on musically. So doing music for television and film, it's not so much about relevance. It's just what works to a picture. So
sure. So you're very modest. Let's tease out that word though, adaptation, because for some, having to step away or not being able to be in the limelight anymore, having an album dropped or being let go from a label can kind of really be the beginning of the end. What helped you make that adaptation?
I guess it's a bit of a reality check, honestly. It's you get older,
Right.
And it's very much like a career of an athlete. So you have maybe a 10-year window to like really do your thing when you're on the court or on the field. And in music, it could be a little different. I mean, it could definitely be longer, but there is a window.
Right.
And you know, you're not going to look the same as you did at 40 that you did at 20.
Right.
So things are going to change, and you have to ultimately come to the conclusion that I'm not going to be that person. So what can I do to grow?
Sure.
And
Talk to us about, because people always have this question, what about the money? How do things work in terms of trying to get better at really getting the credit as well as financially reimbursed for all the work that you do, especially as you drift maybe from being in front to back to production and things like that? How does that work? Because a lot of people, I think, don't really understand how you can have 70 million streams, but that's not going to be $70 million.
yeah, it doesn't translate to dollars. I mean, that's always going to be a bit of a challenge. Me personally, I got to a point to where I started treating music like an investment portfolio. So I would say, okay, I'm going to take this music and I'm going to do these songs on these artists.
Right.
And I'm going to take this music and I'm going to license this music to television. I'm going to have little pet projects over here. So I diversified my portfolio.
Yes.
And I'm not depending on sales of a record necessarily to eat. So I have all these different revenue streams from music, and it works out for me.
Sure. And with that, what advice would you give to someone young who may have just been dropped from a label, or the album essentially has been shelved, officially or unofficially? It's starting to come out, and they finished it up a year or two ago, and they don't know when it's coming out.
Right. Don't stop is the first thing I say. Keep your creative outlet. Keep your flow going. Continue to create. It might not have been the right time for that project.
Right.
And use that as growth, as an opportunity to grow as an artist, as an individual, because I guarantee you, from the experience of having gone through that, you will have even better material to write about and sing about or rap about on the next project.
Where do you feel your sense of confidence and that ability, like I said, to change and move forward, where do you feel like comes from? Your upbringing, things you experienced, people that mentored you?
Yeah, upbringing, close friends. I keep myself grounded. I meditate daily. Music is therapeutical to me.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that definitely is a great segue into kind of when you hear those words, was the name of our show, Music and Medicine. How does that resonate with you?
Oh, I totally resonate with that. Music is medicine for me. I listen to it leisurely. I listen to it professionally.
Right.
But I'm able to use music as a template to set the right vibe and whatever it is I'm trying to do.
Sure. I just want to, as we're getting ready to wrap, kind of just tease out this concept a little bit more. It can certainly seem that the industry is relatively manipulative. Bring them in, put them up, spit them out. And really being able to deal with a lot of mental health issues and stress that it seems a lot of young people are facing is not something that the industry was really designed to do. Are there some recommendations or things that you think either individuals need to do themselves, or that, wow, if the industry could provide more mentorship or whatever, might help avoid some of the disasters?
Yeah, I think finding a good mentor, particularly people who've been in the industry for quite some time, that can help you to adapt to what the industry is doing at that time. Find time and space for yourself. Like I say, I meditate daily. I think that keeps me grounded, and I'm happy to do it, and I recommend that for anybody who aspires to be in the music business.
Sure. What would you say are some of the highlights of your career that you really enjoyed and kind of look back on and say, that was the shit?
Touring, that's definitely going to always be embedded in my mind. Watching some of my projects come to fruition on television. I did the opening theme for the Emmys a couple of years ago, and Cedric the Entertainer was the host, and they did a rap. They did Bismarcky, Just a Friend, and we just kind of changed it a little bit for television. And it was LL Cool J and Cedric and Lil Dicky, and I mean, it was just fun to actually watch that happen, see it happen on television.
Sure, appreciate it. You heard it from a master himself in terms of making a transition from in front of the camera to composing the music that we all listen to, and some of it can be the soundtrack of our lives. it doesn't mean that you are not worthy simply because you cannot have your fame last on and on, because you will age and you will change. The challenge is, can you accept that change as not meaning that your self-esteem has to be shattered? As you heard, he's used meditation as something very concrete, so I was glad to hear about that, as a way to really continue to know himself, explore himself, and understand that one of the only constants is change, and he can be all right with that. So I hope you can too, and can learn from Rashad Holiday's experience and the amazing work that he's continued to do. Some of the opportunities he's had, maybe even greater than some of the ones he had before. But certainly, we appreciate you joining us, and thanks so much for being on our show.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to Music and Medicine. Welcome to Music and Medicine. Welcome to Music and Medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Moshe Lewis.